Alright there, God's owners and YouTubers. I was in the middle of talking about the German knowledge from the 20s and so forth, the psyche of the German people as a whole, what this higher education and knowledge and so forth done for those people, as opposed to what the witches are trying to do for ours today. And we were talking about faith and obedience compared to knowledge. And I know your minds are automatically going to all the scriptures where the Bible tells you got to seek knowledge, knowledge good, and it portrays knowledge as a good thing. And just like Solomon said, that sometimes too much knowledge is not a good thing. And I can't quote the where he said that, but it's in Ecclesiastes somewhere. But anyway, my point being, and then we were talking about witches and where they come from and what's the process of becoming a witch and so forth. And then we're talking about Germany and these movies that are coming out in the 20s, like I think it's escapes me, Metropolis. And there are other movies, even the first Dracula movie. They all encapsulate these hidden signs and demonic signatures, things that they were learning through these history books, through the colleges, through these higher learning educational systems, and they were all being stripped away from faith in Jesus Christ and all being exposed and inducted into the faith of knowledge. History, I guess would be a more word for knowledge, is really what all knowledge is. It's basically a history. It's a learning in history. Now, let's look at the German people. Through this constant barrage of these, the first movies and so forth, and it was basically common knowledge, these occultic beliefs through their people, it was permeated through their people. We have the rise of Hitler. Well, who and what was Hitler? Well, Hitler was actually a Bible-reading guy, a Lord-seeking fellow at one time. I could just see him there in his little Hitler mustache when he was 6 or 7 or so, and coming to the awakening that he needed God, and he wanted to search out God, and he started his quest for seeking. Well, he was educated beyond the simple state of obedience and faith in Jesus Christ, and he clinged rather more to the knowledge of the thing. And Hitler, when he came to power, a lot of people don't know this, but he sent out all these crusades all over the Holy Land and tried to collect items that were written of in Babel, things of power, stargates and fictional things and all kind of witchcraft things that the man had a lot of faith in at that point because he was educated. Those roles that were played in the earlier Indiana Jones films, which, by the way, the Indiana Jones films are an education all on their own, but the roles that the Germans played in the earlier Jones films is very much true. They, not as in they found the Ark and all the stuff that went with that, but they were combing different parts of the world looking for spiritual and artifacts from the Bible and other history books. They knew that there was power in those things, and they were looking for them. There's a great power in history, as seen in today by this great revolt against Jesus Christ. There's the power in that, and just the power of knowing those things can strip you away from Christ. So here we are with Germany catching on to their new higher learning, and we've got Hitler on the rise. And a funny thing happens to Hitler is he loses his compassion that was once in him by Christ. He seems to have lost the ability to look at his fellow man as anything other than an animal that is used for meat. That's a pretty horrible state for a human being to get. It's even more horrible if you're the human being that he's targeted out to be used for meat. And I don't need to remind everybody about the atrocities that happened in against the Jewish people in that era. And I'm sure a lot of you are scoffing right now saying, "Oh, it never happened. It was all bullshit. It didn't happen to the amount of people that it don't matter if it happened to one people. If that happened to one people during the result of his rise to power, it is wrong. And I think you know that it was at least more than one person in those camps and those pictures that were taken. It all couldn't have been hype, and it all couldn't have been propaganda, as so many of the witches would have us believe in their quest for the knowledge. Now, there was some trickery going on. There is in every war. There is always people putting propaganda on you. We live in a state of propaganda. Matter of fact, I dare to say that a vast majority of the things that we have learned in life so far is a result of propaganda. That's why we're so far away from Christ right now. That being said, Hitler was no Boy Scout, and his firm new belief in that knowledge of history made him to be a fellow that is not play well with others, and it will do the same thing to and for you. This quest for higher knowledge that the witches of the world would like you to educate yourselves. One thing you can notice about a witch is that they're usually not very nice people. They're very educated. They're always willing to help you with knowledge. But you know, if something happened in your life that you needed a friend, they're usually not there as a form of a friend. They're usually not there to give you encouragement words, to build you up in your faith in Christ, to build you up in your faith in human compassion even. But they're always there, you know, to get you on the bandwagon. Yeah, look at the Jews, it's all bullshit, it never happened. They're always there to help you with those kinds of things. But they're never really there to help you with, you know, things that of understanding and compassion and love and charity and so forth. All the things that we all look for God for, as a matter of fact, because we have that basic need for those things. But they never seem to help you with obtaining that. They always seem to help you with the revealing of the magic act. So, I mean, and that's a trait that can point out witches to you through these movies and these videos as well. A guy or girl that's always willing to help you educate away from a belief that you have, never willing to help you shore you up with anything to do with charity, faith, and love, and obedience. Why obedience? Obedience is the channel. Just like humor is a channel that can be used, or music can be used, obedience is very much a channel. Blind obedience works, people. If you're in blind obedience of somebody who's not filled with the charity of Christ, and who's not filled with the love of, just say love, period. You can take Jesus out of the picture if it makes you more comfortable. But if you remove love from the act of blind obedience, then it becomes a tool to lead people. And guess who's been doing that for years? That's what the witches have been doing. That's also what the misguided churches have been doing. I'm not going to pick on the Catholic Church or this church or that church. Well, let's just say when they found out that system worked, the blind obedience system worked, man, they gobbled it up and ran with the ball when they figured that out. And they didn't have to work no more, because, you know, it's hard getting truth out, and you have to tap into a spirit of truth and love to, you know, to get that word out. Well, it's a whole lot easier just to write down a manuscript of a Bible, a version of a Bible, and tell people you accept this Bible as we wrote it, and blind faith and blind obedience, and you'll be okay. Because, you know, that way the money's being raked in, and they don't have to do anything or feed you. The money still comes in. So blind faith works, whether we want to admit that or not. But unfortunately, it also works for the negative, as it works just as good for the positive. It became pretty apparent to me during my searches and seeking for the truth of God, which I know to be Jesus Christ. He is exactly who he says he was, but he is in no way who we fathom who he is. But in my search for those things, it dawned on me that God really wanted us to have faith. He really wanted us to be obedient. The lessons in obedience is given us to the relationship between man versus wife. It is the same exact thing as the relationship between mankind, who man and woman is both in, and God. The same problems exist through marriage, through divorce, through spirit of dissension, through argumentation, through breakdowns, through family dysfunctions. Everything you have in your family, time to time, you have in your relationship between mankind and God. Okay, one is a mirror image to the other. And the relationship between man and woman is a direct lesson, a tool that we utilize, that God gave us to grasp the problems between us and Himself. Master the relationship between husband and wife, understand what makes that relationship work, then you have a very good chance of understanding what makes a healthy relationship work between God and mankind. And I don't mean a dysfunctional relationship that just because you've been married for 50 years, don't think you've got a functional relationship between you and your spouse. There's more to it than that, because the goal of that relationship is to obtain love, and it's the same goal between mankind and God, is to obtain love. So obedience is a very important thing. We need it to get to where we are now, which I believe is a state of hell. Because I think we're all dead spiritually. I think we are that sea of bones Ezekiel talks about. I think we are this boisterous waters that Christ was walking above. I think we are separated by a gulf between us and God now. We can talk to God, but somehow we just can't cross this gulf because we're in one dimension and He's in another. In order for us to get out of this state of hell that we're in now, where we're all looking at facing death and the death of our loved ones as well as ourselves, to get out of this hellish type existence, to get to where there's no death, and to get to where we are acceptable to God as we once were before we were put in this flesh condition, which is, a separation between man and God. Before we were put here, I think we were with God. I think there was a revulsion. I think we followed the devil. I think we follow the devil through the same means that we're following right here now today, through knowledge, through history, through putting our belief system, basing it on what we can learn in history books and not what we can learn through blind obedience. Sounds dangerous, this talk of blind obedience, but it doesn't change the fact that blind obedience works. Okay, let's take a look at Christians versus the educated ones. What was good for mankind and what wasn't good for mankind. I'm going to stop this video and do part 5 because it must be getting close to 10 minutes, and I'll be right back with you.